All right, let's dive straight into this explainer and break down one of the absolutely crucial topics for your exams and, honestly, for just making sense of the Indian economy: unemployment. It's a buzzword we hear literally all the time, in the news, in debates, you name it. But from an economic standpoint, especially here in India, it's a deeply complex, structural puzzle. So today, we're going to unpack exactly what it means, why it happens, and how we can actually start solving it.
So what does it actually mean to be unemployed? Well, first off, we need to challenge the everyday assumption that unemployment is just simply not working. It is way more specific to that. Think about it. If a kid isn't working, or a grandparent has retired, or someone just voluntarily chooses to chill at home, they aren't economically unemployed. To really grasp the scale of the problem, we need a much more precise measuring stick.
And here is that exact measuring stick. As Professor Pagoo defines it, the absolute key here is the willingness and capacity to work at current wages. We're zeroing in on the active workforce. That's people aged 15 to 64. If someone in this specific age bracket is ready, capable, and actively eager to work at the going rate but just cannot find a job, that right there is involuntary or compulsory unemployment. Voluntarily sitting out? Yeah, that doesn't count in these stats.
Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We're hitting how to measure unemployment, the specific types, the causes in India, general fixes, and finally, we'll look at some state programs. Let's jump into Section 1, Measuring Unemployment. We're going to look at how the Raj Krishna Committee actually put a ruler to this massive issue back in 2011 and 2012.
What's really brilliant about this committee's work is they showed us unemployment isn't just a simple yes or no question. It's a whole spectrum. They gave us 4 distinct pillars. First is time. If you're working less than 28 hours a week, you're intensively unemployed. Second is income. You might be working, sure, but if those earnings can't even pull your family out of poverty, you're economically unemployed. Third is willingness. This is when you're forced to take a job way below what you're qualified for. And finally, productivity, when someone is working at way less than their actual capacity. These really pull back the curtain on the hidden layers of the job crisis.
Moving right along to Section 2, the types of unemployment. Now that we know the criteria, let's see how this breaks down into the 5 specific types you absolutely need to know for your exam.
First up is open unemployment, and this is the most visible one out there. These are folks who are totally ready, willing, and qualified, but they have absolutely zero work. In India, you see this heavily concentrated in cities. It frequently plays out when educated or semi-skilled youth, usually between 15 and 25 years old, migrate from villages to urban centers, chasing jobs that just aren't there. They become completely openly unemployed.
Now check out this stark contrast between these next two, because it's fascinating. Underemployment is all about a mismatch. It's like someone with a chartered accountant degree who is forced to work as a clerk, or wanting an 8-hour shift but only getting 5. Disguised unemployment, on the other hand, is completely sneaky. Picture a 10-hectare farm. It only needs 5 workers for maximum output, right? But because there are no other jobs around, 3 extra family members jump in to help. The crazy part? The total crop yield doesn't go up by a single grain. Those 3 extra workers have zero marginal productivity. They look busy, but economically, they are disguisedly unemployed.
The final 2 types are cyclical and frictional. Cyclical unemployment is totally at the mercy of capitalist trade cycles, the economic booms and depressions. A great textbook example is the Indian diamond industry, which just has to shed workers whenever global demand tanks. Frictional unemployment, though, is a bit different. It's temporary and usually driven by innovation. Think about what smartphones completely wiped out old-school mobile phones. The workers in those old tech factories, they were frictionally unemployed, right up until they learned the new systems.
Section 3, Causes in India. Having mapped out all these types, we really have to ask the big question. Why is unemployment such a massive, stubborn, structural issue in India specifically? 1.70 crores. Let that number sink in for a second. That staggering figure is India's annual population increase. To put that into perspective, every single year we are adding a population greater than the entire country of Australia. That puts a relentless, massive pressure on our job market that our economic growth just hasn't been able to keep up with.
But hey, population is really only half the story. The rest is deeply structural. We've been experiencing what economists call jobless growth. Our economy is growing, sure, but job opportunities aren't rising with it. Why? Well, we rely way too heavily on capital-intensive production, meaning we buy machines instead of hiring people. In a country that literally has abundant labor, then we suffer from the drain of brain, losing our top doctors and engineers overseas because of terrible domestic manpower planning. Throw in the historical neglect of our agriculture sector and social factors that tie workers down to one location, and you've got a perfect storm for structural unemployment.
All right, Section 4, General Measures. The situation is definitely complex, so what are the textbook ways to actually turn this ship around?
Fixing this requires a massive policy pivot. We definitely need population control to help balance out the incoming labor supply, and we absolutely must shift toward labor-intensive, employment-oriented planning. Our education system, it has to stop just churning out clerks and pivot to real vocational business-ready skills. But here is a truly mind-blowing fact from the text. With the exact same amount of capital investment, a small-scale industry can actually create 7.5 times more employment than a large, heavy industry. Investing heavily in those, along with building up rural infrastructure, is the secret sauce to generating jobs right where people already live.
Finally, Section 5, State Programs. Let's wrap up by looking at the actual boots-on-the-ground programs the government has rolled out over the years to fight poverty and joblessness.
You are definitely going to want to memorize this table for your exams. We've got the IRDP from 1980, which targeted self-employment for the rural poor, like marginal farmers. Then PMRY in the 90s, aiming to help educated unemployed youth launch their own ventures. But the real standout here? MGNRGA. This is a total game changer because it legally guarantees a minimum of 100 days of wage employment per family for public construction works. It acts as a massive direct safety net. And lastly, the Jan Dhan Yojana from 2014, tackling poverty through financial inclusion, offering zero-balance accounts with a 5,000 rupee overdraft to help kickstart microfinance and small businesses.
So we've covered the core definitions, the structural causes, and the textbook solutions. But I want to leave you with a pretty provocative thought to chew on. As India's massive youth population collides head-on with the rapid explosion of AI and automation, the entire landscape of work is about to shift drastically. What new types of frictional and structural unemployment are we going to be looking at by 2030? And more importantly, are our current education and economic policies truly ready for it? Think about how the concepts we unpack today will apply to the very real world you're stepping into. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.